are listening to It's Later Than You Think. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are listening in. Thank you for joining me for another episode. Today we discuss our addictions to our cellular devices. I'm going to share a couple stories that relate to that, as well as provide a vast amount of tips and suggestions to step away from those devices, even for just a little bit of time, to take a break and hopefully regain some more clarity and live more in the moment rather than having our head down, nose into our cell phones as we doom scroll, as we ignore the world around us, as we try to multitask by having a conversation with someone. So I'm hoping by the end of today's episode, you can all challenge yourselves to really take a guaranteed much needed break from your phone. I want to start with a story about a college student back in 2012. Some of you may have heard about this. This was, again, 13 years ago. And at that time, we'll say that smartphones had been around for, 5 or more years. And the addiction was kind of slowly being implemented into our minds and our collective. And now here we are a decade or more later, and it's as worse as it's ever been. Before I get into this article, side note to the documentary that was on Netflix, I believe, a few years ago, The Social Dilemma, regarding the big higher-ups, the CEOs, the essentially designers of, Google and Twitter and Facebook and whatever else was featured on there, about how addictive these programs are and media and applications are supposed to be to keep you scrolling, to keep you invested. That these same people that design these don't even let their children go on them. But I want to revert back to the article I mentioned, that in 2012, there was a college student that decided to do a little project, and he called it the Amish Project. Rather than giving you a quick summary, I want to read through the video that he had made for this. This was an article that was originally featured on Yahoo News. I cannot find the article, but I did find a summary and the video that was created for this on the Forbes website. And brief backstory, this decision to take on this experiment, we'll say, was due to this student having a handful of friends visit from out of town. And at one point in the night, he looked up and all 6 of them, including himself, were on some sort of technology. They were watching TV, but not really watching, because some of the guys were on their phones, some of them were on their laptops, and no one was talking to one another. And he thought this is completely ridiculous. So with that, I will start reading what he ended up coming up with. One night, I was sitting in my apartment with my 6 best friends in the world when I looked up to realize what was happening. And I just decided I didn't want to keep doing it. I didn't quite know what I wanted, but I knew there was some sort of existence before all of this, and I wanted to remember what that was. So I cut all ties with the outside world, removed myself from the proverbial cloud, told my mother I loved her, and set off to wander through life completely untethered. And it was wild out there because I was the only one doing it. Everyone else just kept going about their fully connected lives. I was completely isolated and alone, but I remained unfettered. Until people finally started to notice and eventually love the idea. And then there came a point where it went from being this incredible challenge, a seemingly never-ending chore, to a complete change in the way I live my life. Everything was so much simpler. I had relationships with people, not profile pages. I tossed window pebbles instead of sending texts. I had nothing but time on my hands. I was immeasurably more calm and at peace. I looked around at the world instead of reading about it on my phone. And after doing it for 90 days, I can honestly say that I didn't want it to be over. My life had been revolutionized. And yeah, I know exactly what you're going to say, but this is the world we live in. Well, maybe it's time we actually live in it. Because no matter how dependent we think our lives are on something, they're not. So what I love about this idea is even in 2012, how much of a challenge that had to be for 90 days to not use technology. This guy, he had a landline. It's almost like he was going back in the past. However, everyone else was still living in the present. Do I think that's attainable now? Is it safe to, or even a good idea to want to go back and to live the way we used to? I don't know. I think that having the technology we do, there are so many amazing perks to these devices. We have all the information at our fingertips. One of the best things for me, I think, is not only being able to pull up a sports box, having those right at my fingertips, be able to send a quick text, a quick message, but also Google Maps or Apple Maps and being able to get around. Probably one of the better things. Another perk, I would say, would be being able to stream music. Spotify or Apple Music, whatever you listen to, is great, especially with working out, going on runs or at the gym. Having that music with your Bluetooth headphones is more than ideal. It's fantastic. But then on the flip side, social media. Those apps obviously are created to pull your attention away from whatever else you're doing, to suck you in, to get you to doom scroll. And that can be tough for a lot of people, especially with notifications. I, for one, don't have notifications on my phone. I've turned those off. Other than text messaging, I can hear when those go off for single conversations, one-on-one. Anything more than one person in a chat is automatically on the silent notifications or the do not disturb, because that just is too much for me. Overall, I think the technology we have has offered a lot of benefits, but to the point of what this student did, I think it was a really good experiment. In today's world, it's definitely not easy to live without technology, and I don't think I'd want to just get rid of my phone for X amount of days or weeks or months as he did. I think having a tech break, whether it's once a month or even once a week, is a really good idea. We all used to be able to survive without our cell phones, and I think that not having your phone attached to your hip every now and again is a good way to enjoy your surroundings. Maybe challenge yourself to do that. And before those of you that have crazy anxiety, think about, what if something happens? What if this happens? You have to start living in a world that you think that something bad is always going to happen. There are ways that people can get a hold of you. An example would be if you wanted to take a full day break. Let's say there's a weekend day where you're like, I don't want to be on my phone at all. Put it in a drawer, but leave the ringer on. If something urgent happens, there's an emergency, you can pick up your phone if it rings. But the text messages, your dings for your social media, your email, that can all wait till Monday or whatever the next day is. Give it a try. It's going to be really difficult, but I think you can do it. I plan to report back after I spend a whole day away from my phone. I am planning to do that in the coming weeks for one day, and I will hopefully follow up and let you know how it went. I'm going to interrupt Story Hour to let you know that I actually went ahead this past weekend and did a full break from my cell phone for close to 36 hours. On Friday night, as I went to bed, I put my phone in a drawer, left the ringer on, just in case, went to bed. Saturday, I Did not use my phone whatsoever. I did look at it twice, picked it up just to see if there again was any of those emergency calls that of course didn't happen. And on Sunday morning when I ended the break, I hadn't missed anything other than close to 70 some text messages that were combined from two separate family text chains. Nothing urgent. And there was a lot of messages due to a extended family member's birthday. And then also another family member of mine had entered the Berkey Binder ski race over the weekend, and a lot of congratulatory text for her, which was amazing. Had a few unimportant emails that came in. Social media, jumped on there, had a few notifications, and not important. Someone had liked a story I'd put on Friday. I survived. You can too. But how did I actually survive without my phone for over 24 hours? Woke up Saturday morning, took the dog for a walk, came back, had some coffee, did some reading, got ready for the day. I had some errands to run. Fortunately, I knew where I was going, so I didn't need my phone for directions. Knocked out those errands. I came back, watched a little TV. Again, I'm not saying that I needed to take a full technology break and, live with, this isn't about living, without any technology whatsoever. It's more of just a cell phone break. I watched some basketball, watched a little Netflix. I went out to a local establishment and grabbed some lunch. Had a couple non-alcoholic beers. There was a gentleman a couple seats over, and we talked for probably good 20 minutes, half hour, just about the games that were on TV and our enjoyment of Marquette basketball. And that was great. I did not have the urge to grab a phone that I didn't have with me. So that was kind of cool. Just actually talking with someone versus just staring at my phone while I was at the bar, which I probably would have done otherwise. I didn't have a whole lot planned yesterday other than just some things around town. And while I could have, gone out of my way to done something, to kept busy, I wanted this to be kind of natural. And I wanted just to see how it was just kind of sitting around at home too, a Saturday night without having to reach for my phone. I didn't hear it ring at all. And again, I had the notifications that I generally don't have on, but I didn't get any individual text notifications. So it was easier than I thought, but also there was times where it was a little uncomfortable. Like I did want to grab my phone to look at something, to look something up. There was a part of the day where out of habit, I wanted to open up my Instagram and Facebook and see what people were up to during the day, which again, I could have easily just checked that when I was ready to open up my phone after the break, which I did. And it didn't seem like I missed a whole lot. So this goes along with if you're feeling that you need a break of some sorts, give it a try. Or again, use some of the strategies or tips that I'm going to share with you momentarily. This whole technology break thing did kind of remind me of the book Into the Wild, written by Jonathan Krakauer in 1996. And those of you who might be familiar with this book or the movie adaptation, this told the story of Christopher McCandless, a recent college graduate who was basically fed up with society as a whole, decided to go into the Alaskan wilderness and live off the land. He burned thousands of dollars in savings. He stripped the plates off his car. He hitched a couple of rides into the Alaskan wilderness and set to, again, live off the land. And his body was discovered, you know, months or years later by some other hitchhikers or travelers. And that's not a spoiler alert because, first of all, this book is 30 years old. And second, you find out right away when the book starts, the story begins, that he had died. The problem is he went in well underprepared with the amount of clothing and lack of hunting skills. I won't get into the full details of how or why he died, but it's a great story. And I first read this book in college as an assignment, and I completely loved it. I thought the whole idea of Christopher McCandless changing his name to Alexander Supertramp, living off the land, was fantastic. And I read this book in 2003 or 4, and at that time this was still, pre-smartphone, and I thought, like, wow, what a life. I mean, terribly tragic situation, and took a lot of guts to do what he did. But at that time, that was still somewhat possible to go do and not to be really known where you were. Today, not so much. There's just way too much ability to track someone for the most part. And I've read the book actually probably 4 times total in my life. The last time was, I want to say, 2019, 2020. And when I read it this last time, I didn't like it like I thought I did, or I think because this time I was really critical of his decisions, of the stupidity at which he went about living off the land. And so that was a little frustrating for me. But overall, I think Jonathan Krakauer did a great job with retelling the story and the interviews with people that knew him and that met him in his journey. I thought was pretty amazing. I now want to segue into another book that I have read within the last 4 or 5 years, and that is a book that was written in 2019 by Rolf Dobelli. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's called Stop Reading the News, a manifest for a happier, calmer, and wiser life. Now, note, this was written before the COVID pandemic, but this was another book I really kind of liked. It's got I think 3.5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, so it's well liked, but not completely loved. This book is really short as far as it's 150 pages, maybe. The chapters, there's like 35 chapters. They're all, 4 to 5 pages each. But the overall idea of the book is not only to stop reading the news, but majority of things that you hear, whether it's on your social media or on a newscast, are very irrelevant to your own everyday life. And I stated that, a minute ago, that this was written before COVID, because I think for many people watching the news during the early stages of COVID, while there was a lot of information and some misinformation going on, it was important to know really what was going on in the world. But what the author talks about in a few different instances in this book is that most of the news that happens, if you were to open up USA Today or your local online website or even old school newspaper, majority of the things aren't going to apply to you necessarily. And also, if something big were to happen, so let's say, we all know that there's a lot of tragic news that goes on in the world that is reported. And so whatever that news would be to you, there's a very good chance that you'll hear about it eventually, that you don't necessarily need to know about it right away. At some point, someone would come up to you and say, hey, did you hear about this? Whether it's through a text message or you hear about it a couple of days later at work. The amount of stress and anxiety we give ourselves that the news basically shoves down our throats is not always necessary, and it's not healthy for us to constantly be on edge and to feel that extra anxiety and that stress. Not trying to say it's not important to keep up with the day-to-day news, But at the same time, I think it's good to really ask yourself, do I need to know everything that's going on? How is that going to affect my day-to-day life? And again, is there some other way I can find out about this, whether it's in a few days or will someone else tell me about it? One last book I want to recommend is called How to Break Up with Your iPhone, The 30-Day Plan to Take Back Your Life. This is a book I've read on 2 separate occasions over the last 4 or 5 years. It was written in 2018. And what I like about this book, it's, again, no nonsense, give you some good tips about how to get some more time back in your day, how to put the screen and device down. And again, if you don't follow all of the recommended steps, you take at least a few of those or a handful of them, you will be better off than when you started reading the book. Now that we have the book recommendations out of the way, I want to switch things up and discuss a couple of articles with you. This first one is called 60 Things to Do Instead of Being on Your Phone. Well, I am not going to read each of those 60 things to you. What I would like to do is go through some of the main talking points of this article, including the necessity of unplugging. In today's fast-paced digital world, our devices serve as windows to vast landscapes of information, entertainment, and social interaction. Yet this constant access comes with its own set of challenges. Unplugging from our digital devices, even for brief periods, isn't just a break from routine, it's an essential practice for our mental and physical well-being. Number 1 point, the hidden cost of constant connectivity. Starting with increased stress and anxiety. The incessant flow of notifications, messages, and information can elevate our stress levels, often without our conscious realization. Pressure to stay updated and respond promptly can lead to heightened anxiety and a perpetual sense of urgency. The diminished attention span, our ability to focus, is being undercut by the barrage of distractions that phones and other devices provide. This fragmentation of our attention can diminish our capacity for deep work and meaningful engagement with complex tasks or thoughts. And then quality of relationships. While smartphones and social media keep us connected in unprecedented ways, they also can dilute the quality of our face-to-face interactions. The presence of a phone during a conversation, even if not in use, can decrease feelings of closeness and trust between individuals. Number 2, embracing boredom and creativity. The benefits of boredom. In the cracks and crevices of boredom, creativity and imagination flourish. When we step away from the digital noise, we allow our minds the space to wander, reflect, and stumble upon new ideas. Boredom, rather than being an experience to avoid, can be the fertile ground from which innovation springs. Deepening connections. Unplugging devices gives us the chance to reconnect with others in more meaningful ways. Engaging in activities together or simply sharing in face-to-face conversations without the distraction of devices can strengthen our relationships and foster a sense of belonging. And 3, the physical and emotional recharge. Healthier lifestyle choices. Taking time away from screens encourages physical activity and engagement with the outdoors. Whether it's a walk in the park, a yoga session, or gardening, these activities can significantly improve our physical health. Emotional well-being. Unplugging allows for introspection and self-reflection, which are crucial for emotional growth. By disengaging from the digital world, we can confront our feelings directly, process them more effectively, and gain insight into our own lives and decisions. And that, again, was from the website chantful.com. That was 60 things to do instead of being on your phone. I think these ideas are fantastic. They're really good points as far as not only our emotional and physical health, but connecting and embracing the boredom that allows that creativity. I think the quality of relationships was another point that was well said. I think about, the family around the dinner table that is staring at their phone while they eat, not talking to one another. I live in an apartment building, and 97% of the time when I step in the elevator, someone is on their phone. Or when they get on the elevator, they're on their phone. Yeah, we don't need to talk the whole time. But it's really funny, and I am guilty of this. I've done this before too, where you zone out and all of a sudden the door opens, you get off which you think is your floor. It's not. It's someone else coming on the elevator as you're going down or going up. But we're so distracted with these phones, it's just kind of comical in a way. Again, we've all done it, but I think those are little moments where it'd be nice not to have that thing so tethered and so attached to us that we can't have simple conversation with someone next to us. It's like, sitting on the couch with a partner and you're not even talking to each other because you're on your phone. It's just the world we live in now. Going back to that initial thought at the beginning of what that college student said, just because it's the way things are nowadays, does that mean that's the best way to go about things? And for that, I agree with him that yes, we've gone so far in this direction, but that doesn't mean that we can't take a step back and to practice some of this mindfulness, practice some of these tips and tricks to take a break from this cellular addiction. This leads me into my last kind of area I want to discuss today. I read another article. This was on the website for a trampoline company called Acon. This company wrote an article a couple years ago, year and a half ago, 100 things to do without your phone. And buckle up, I'm going to go through each of those. I'm not going to read necessarily the points that are attached to each of those, but I thought this was kind of fun because I categorized their list. They had a list of all 100 things and they just basically listed it all in order. I put these in a little bit of categories. So this might be helpful, again, if you just pick even a couple. Pick 5%. Just pick 5 of them to do over the next week. And maybe you'll find some time where you don't have to be on your phone. You can have a little bit of sense of maybe accomplishment or less stress or less anxiety when you're not sitting there doom scrolling or watching reels on your TikTok or your Instagram, or you're having an argument with someone on Facebook. Which, please, if you do that, just stop. Why? Why are you getting all huffy puffy and worried and anxious and worked up with someone you don't even know? It's just mind boggling how these comments just go on and on about the silliest things online. How to spend less time on a phone. Around the house. Read a book. Spend time alone. Paint. Draw. Self-care. Make candles. Crochet. Embroidery. Knitting. Take a bath. Write. Meditate. This other one, some of these kind of tie in. Write a letter. Babysit or pet sit. Clean the car. Make a dream list. Learn a language. Make a holiday bucket list. Color. Learn to bake something. Try origami. Print photos in scrapbook. Mend clothes. Fix something broken. Crosswords or Sudoku. Jigsaw. Brainstorm your best ideas. Learn an instrument. Read magazines and newspapers. Or stop reading the news, as the book I discussed earlier. Play a podcast, like this one. Cook. Buy or make gifts. Write cards. Take a nap. Make a gratitude list. All things you can do around your house when you're just sitting on the couch scrolling through your social media. The organized category. Spring clean. Tidy a cupboard. Closet clear. Organize your spice rack. Organize your clothes. Tidy your shed. Recycle old belongings. Rearrange your room. This next category I titled Together. Play frisbee. Fly a kite. Play. Whatever it is. Jump on a trampoline. Shout out to the Acon group. Go to a kids' festival. Take the kids and build a treehouse. Go bowling. The next category, out and about. Vintage shop. Go to a concert. Go to the beach. Go to the park. Go camping. Go to a comedy night. Go to the market. like a night market or flea market during the day. Visit a library or bookstore. Visit a museum or a gallery. Visit a spa. Take a drive. People watch. Take real photos. Go to a coffee shop. There's the exercise category. Run. Shoot hoops. Go dancing. Rollerblade. Workout. Practice a cartwheel or headstand. Take a gym class. Try rebounding. A form of exercise where you jump on a mini trampoline, by the way. Jump rope. Take a walk. Bike. We've got one more category to go through. Environment or nature or feel good is what I titled this one. Volunteer. Donate unwanted items. Plant a tree. Garden. Take care of plants. Take a hike. Foster an animal. Forest bathe. That's go to the forest as you're walking, breathe in fresh, clean air. That doesn't mean go take a bath outside in the forest. Pottery. Landscape. Collect. So find something you want to collect outside. Wander. And stargaze. Rolled through those 100. That's a lot. Some of them kind of tie into one another, but you get the gist, I hope. That there are a lot of things we can do that do not require our phones. I'm telling you now, it's cool to have a memory of when you go to a concert. I completely agree. I allow myself usually one video and take a couple pictures. Because for the most part, the video you are taking from the second deck or the picture you're taking from the 30th row, all right, you look back at it, you have it on your phone, cool. But most likely the professional photographers and videographers have taken way better pictures and videos. And whatever is posted to YouTube is going to be much better than what you have on your little device. I want to end with this thought. The world we live in now is, I think, even more complicated than things used to be, at least when I was younger. Long gone are the days where, as kids, we would just go play for hours in our friend's backyard or at their house, and our parents wouldn't know where we were. I get that. That's just not how things are anymore. But I want you to think about all the times that you have your phone and why you have it with you. Is it out of habit? Is it because you're worried that you might miss a call or a text? As I mentioned, I live in an apartment. I take my dog out to go potty or to go for walks 5 to 7 times a day. She likes to walk and I like to get my steps in, so I'm all about that. I generally don't have my phone with me ever when I'm out with her. Especially in winter, if I am bundled up with my hat and gloves on, I'm not going to be needing to look at my phone at all. At the end of the day, technology is great. I do enjoy having a smartphone. I really do. I don't love it all the time, but for the most part, it does serve me well. However, I hope today is a reminder that we don't need to rely on these devices 100% of our lives. Your challenge this week is to think about your relationship with your smartphone and consider some ways that you can step away for a few minutes, maybe an hour, maybe a day. See how it makes you feel. Do you find yourself missing it? Most likely. But after those hours go by, after that one full day, is it easier and easier each time you try it? I'd be interested to hearing from others. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you on the flip side. Be well.